Part 1. Two Men, One City. In the year 2016, two men graduated from the same college, in the same city, with almost the exact same salary. Call them Ethan and Marcus. They worked similar jobs. They earned similar paychecks. Neither one was born into money. Neither one had a head start. If you had met them both that year, you would not have been able to guess which one of them would end up wealthy, and which one would still be checking his bank balance nervously 20 years later. They looked the same. They sounded the same. On paper, they were the same. But one small decision, made quietly in that very first year, would end up separating their lives by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not because one of them was smarter, not because one of them worked harder, because one of them understood something about time and money that the other one didn't learn until it was too late. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what that decision was, and more importantly, you will know which one of these two men you are currently becoming. Understand this before we go further. Money does not reward the deserving. It does not reward the hardworking, or the honest, or the kind. It rewards whoever understands its nature earliest and moves accordingly, while everyone else waits for permission, or fairness, or the right time that never actually arrives. That is not cynicism. That is simply how the game has always been played, by those quiet enough to never announce that they were playing it at all. Part 2. The story you were sold. Ethan believed something that almost everyone believes in their 20s. He believed there was plenty of time. I'll start investing once I'm earning more. I'll build good habits once things settle down. Right now is for living, not for spreadsheets. This is not a foolish belief. It is, in fact, the most common belief on earth. Every culture repeats some version of it. Every older relative at a family dinner repeats some version of it, usually right after telling you to enjoy being young while you still can. Nobody is lying to you on purpose. But think about who actually benefits from you believing this. The subscription services that quietly renew every month benefit. The financing plan on the car you didn't need benefits. The credit card company offering you a limit that's higher than what you can comfortably pay off benefits. None of them are villains sitting in a room plotting against you. They don't need to plot anything. They simply built a system where comfort is the default setting, and comfort is expensive to maintain, and expensive habits quietly replace the exact money that could have gone into your future instead. This is the first law of power that most people never learn. You do not need to control someone directly if you can simply control their environment. Give a man convenience, ease, and enough small pleasures to never feel deprived, and he will hand you his future willingly, without ever feeling forced. Marcus understood, without ever saying it out loud, that the only way to escape a system built on other people's patience is to become patient on purpose, before patience is demanded of you by circumstance. Marcus, on the other hand, didn't believe he was smarter than Ethan. He didn't have a financial advisor. He didn't inherit anything. He simply made one decision in his first year of work that changed the trajectory of his entire life. He opened a brokerage account, and he automated $300 a month into a simple index fund. That's it. That's the whole decision. No stock picking, no luck, no secret. Just $300 a month, starting at 23 instead of 33. Part 3. The numbers that should keep you awake. Let's actually do the math. Not vague math, real math, using real historical averages. The US stock market, measured over the last 100 years through broad index funds, has returned an average of roughly 10% a year, including the crashes, the recessions, and the recoveries. Marcus invests $300 a month, starting at age 23, and never increases it. Not once, for the rest of his working life. Ethan does the exact same thing, but he starts at age 33 instead. Same $300 a month, same index fund, same average return. By age 65, Marcus will have contributed roughly $150,000 of his own money over those 42 years. Because of compounding, that account will likely be worth somewhere in the range of $2 million. Ethan, contributing the same amount for 32 years instead of 42, will have put in almost the same amount of his own money, a little less, about $115,000. But his account will likely be worth somewhere around $700,000. Read those two numbers again, 2 million versus 700,000. Ethan invested almost the same amount of money as Marcus. He worked just as hard. He was just as disciplined once he finally started. The only difference between them was 10 years. 10 years of compounding, sitting quietly in the background, multiplying itself over and over, completely unaffected by how talented either man was. This is the part almost nobody explains clearly. Compound growth is not linear. It is not a little more each year. In the early decades, growth is slow and almost invisible. In the final decades, the same percentage return produces enormous dollar amounts because the base has grown so large. Which means the money you invest in your 20s isn't just growing for longer. It is growing during the exact decades where growth accelerates the most. Money invested at 32 skips the slow, invisible decades entirely and only catches the smaller tail end of the curve. This is why financial advisors will tell you, quietly, that time in the market matters more than timing the market, more than picking the perfect stock, more than almost anything else you could optimize. Now watch what happens when Marcus does one thing differently. Suppose that every time Marcus receives a raise, he doesn't spend all of it. He simply increases his monthly investment by half of whatever the raise was and lets his lifestyle grow slower than his income on purpose. Over 42 years, with modest raises, that habit alone can take his final number from around $2 million to well beyond $3 million, without ever feeling like sacrifice, because the money he redirects is money he never grew accustomed to spending in the first place. This is a quiet form of leverage almost nobody talks about. It requires no risk, no luck, and no special knowledge. It only requires that Marcus's spending habits stay a half step behind his income permanently, instead of rising to meet it the moment it arrives. Most people do the opposite without noticing. Their spending rises the instant their income does, quietly consuming every advantage a raise was ever supposed to provide. They end up earning more year after year, while somehow never feeling any richer. This is not bad luck. It is a pattern, and patterns can be redirected the moment you notice them. Part 4. The window most people never notice. Here is what almost nobody says out loud about your 20s. Right now, you likely have fewer financial obligations than you will ever have again. No mortgage, possibly no children, fewer people depending on your paycheck to survive, a body that can recover from a bad financial year, a job loss, or a failed side hustle far faster than it will be able to at 45. This is not a lifestyle stage. This is a financial window, and windows close. Marcus wasn't smarter than Ethan when he opened that brokerage account. He simply happened to act while the window was still fully open. By the time most people feel the pressure to take money seriously, they are already 30, 35, sometimes 40. They now have a mortgage, maybe kids. Less room to take financial risks, less time for compounding to work its slow magic. They are not lazy. They are not bad with money. They simply started using the window after most of it had already closed. Think about your own life for a moment. Right now, today, you are holding a version of financial flexibility you will never hold again in exactly this form. Not because your future will be worse, but because obligations only accumulate. They rarely disappear. The version of you at 35 will not care about the nights you spent scrolling instead of automating a single transfer into an index fund. He will only care about one number, whether that transfer started at 23 or 33. Part 5. Why you are still here. Most people who click on a video like this one do not make it this far. They get bored. They get distracted by a notification. They assume they already know what's coming next, and they leave. If you are still listening right now, at this exact point in the video, that tells me something about you. It tells me you are the kind of person who sits with an idea long enough to actually use it, instead of just nodding along and moving on. That is rare. Rarer than people admit. This channel is built for exactly that kind of person. Not for someone looking for a quick dopamine hit about money. For someone who wants to actually understand how wealth is built, quietly, over decades, while everyone else is distracted by something louder. If that sounds like you, staying around for what comes next on this channel will be worth your time. Not because I'm asking you to. Because the people who actually apply these ideas are the ones who end up unrecognizable to their old selves 5 years from now. Now let's get back to Ethan and Marcus, because their story isn't finished yet, and what happens next is the part that actually changes how people think about money. Part 6. The costume everyone mistakes for wealth. While Marcus was quietly moving $300 into an index fund every month, Ethan was doing something else with his money, something that felt, at the time, like he was winning. He financed a car he couldn't fully afford because the monthly payment seemed fine. He upgraded his apartment every time his salary went up because it felt like proof he was doing well. He kept a credit card balance that never quite reached zero because minimum payments felt manageable. None of this looked reckless. It looked completely normal. It looked, in fact, exactly like what most people his age were doing, which is precisely why it never raised any alarms in his own mind. Open any social platform today, and you'll see the modern version of this same trap. A 24-year-old standing next to a financed car, a watch bought on an installment plan, a day-in-my-life video that never once mentions the debt sitting quietly behind the camera. This isn't wealth, it's a costume. And the dangerous part is how convincing the costume is, because it teaches an entire generation that looking rich and being financially free are the same thing. They are not. In many cases, they are opposites. Real financial freedom, the kind that eventually lets you leave a job you hate or take a risk without fear of losing everything, almost never looks impressive from the outside. It looks like a boring savings rate, an unglamorous emergency fund sitting in a high-yield account instead of collecting dust, a retirement contribution that comes out automatically before you even see the money, so you're never tempted to spend it. Nobody films the boring version. Nobody posts a screenshot of an index fund quietly growing at the same disciplined pace, month after month, year after year. And that is exactly why it keeps working, decade after decade, for the people willing to do it. Consider the deeper trap hidden inside Ethan's version of success. Every financed purchase he made was, in effect, a small transfer of his future income to someone else, in exchange for the appearance of having already arrived. The dealership did not need to deceive him. The bank did not need to trick him. They simply offered him a comfortable monthly number, and comfort was all it took. This is the oldest trick in the exercise of power. Let a man believe the appearance of status is the same as the possession of it, and he will spend his entire working life financing an illusion for an audience that was never paying attention to begin with. Marcus understood something Ethan didn't fully grasp until much later. The people whose opinions Ethan was financing his lifestyle to impress were, almost without exception, too consumed with financing their own illusions to notice his at all. Real power, financial or otherwise, is rarely announced. It is accumulated quietly by people who no longer need an audience to feel secure in what they've built. Part 7. What Marcus understood about risk. There's a myth that building wealth young requires taking huge risks. Betting everything on a stock, a business, a crypto trade, something dramatic. Marcus never did any of that. What he understood instead was something quieter, that in your 20s, you can afford small, boring risks that compound safely over time, precisely because you have decades left to recover if something goes wrong. A low-cost index fund isn't exciting. It won't make a good story at a dinner party. Nobody brags about average market returns the way they brag about a lucky trade. But an index fund quietly captures the growth of an entire economy without requiring you to guess which single company will win. It doesn't require luck. It doesn't require timing. It only requires consistency and time, the two things your 20s give you in the largest supply you will ever have. Ethan, meanwhile, kept waiting for the right moment to start investing. A better job, a clearer plan, less debt first, a market that felt safer. That moment never actually arrived because it was never really about the market. It was about a decision that kept getting postponed until postponing it became a habit. This is the quiet trap inside almost every financial regret. It rarely looks like one dramatic mistake. It looks like years of reasonable-sounding delays, each one small enough to feel harmless in the moment. Part 8. The true cost of each year you wait. Let's return to the math one more time, because this is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Every single year Ethan delayed wasn't simply 1 year of missed contributions. It was one of the highest value years his money would have ever had, because that money would have compounded for the maximum number of remaining years. The earliest dollars you invest are the hardest working dollars you will ever own. A dollar invested at 23 has around 42 years to compound before retirement. The exact same dollar invested at 33 only has 32 years. 10 fewer years might sound small. In compounding terms, it can mean that dollar produces less than half the eventual growth. This is why financial experts often say that a 23-year-old investing modestly can end up wealthier than a 35-year-old investing aggressively, simply because time did most of the heavy lifting for the one who started earlier. The market does not offer refunds for lost time. It does not care how motivated you become later, how much more disciplined you are at 35 than you were at 23. It only responds to one input: how long your money has actually been working. Every year of delay is a quiet, invisible debt, charged not in dollars today, but in decades of compounding you can never fully get back. Part 9. 4 Laws. Ethan learned too late. By the time Ethan turned 35, he finally opened his own brokerage account. To his credit, he did start. Many people never do. But by then, he had learned, the hard way, 4 laws Marcus had absorbed a decade earlier without ever needing to suffer for them. The first law: time is worth more than money, especially early on. A small amount invested early will often outgrow a larger amount invested late. This single idea, understood at 22 instead of 32, is worth more than almost any raise or promotion. The second law: the boring plan almost always defeats the exciting one. Automated, unglamorous, consistent investing quietly outperforms most attempts to get rich quickly because it removes emotion, timing, and luck from the equation entirely. The third law: waiting is never free. It only feels free because the cost is invisible until decades later, when it shows up as a number on a retirement account that could have been dramatically larger. The fourth law, and the one almost no one is willing to hear: patience is not weakness. Patience, applied deliberately, is the closest thing to power that an ordinary person will ever hold. The impatient spend their lives reacting to whatever feels urgent. The patient spend their lives quietly positioning themselves for whatever becomes inevitable. Compounding does not reward urgency. It rewards whoever is still standing, still contributing, decades after everyone else has grown bored of waiting. Ethan didn't lack intelligence. He lacked exposure to these four laws at the age when they would have mattered most. That is the real tragedy hiding inside most financial regret. It is rarely a lack of ability. It is almost always a lack of timing, caused by a lack of understanding. At the exact moment, understanding would have been most valuable. Part 10. Which one are you becoming? Picture both of these men one more time. Marcus, at 65, holding an account built almost entirely through patience and consistency. Free to retire on his own terms, free to make choices based on desire instead of financial fear. Ethan, at 65, holding a smaller account, still comfortable, still fine, but painfully aware of exactly how different things could have looked if he had simply started 10 years earlier. Neither man is a villain in this story. Neither man is a genius. The entire difference between their two futures came down to one decision made quietly in their 20s, before either of them had any idea how much it would eventually matter. You will not feel the weight of this decade while you are still living inside it. That is exactly what makes it so easy to waste. The market does not care about your excuses, your youth, or your belief that there will always be more time later. It rewards one thing, consistently, decade after decade: those who started. Somewhere right now, someone your exact age is quietly becoming Marcus, automating a small, unglamorous contribution, choosing patience over appearance, building something invisible that will only become obvious 10, 20, 30 years from now. The only real question left is which one of these two men you are currently on track to become. The one who understood this in time, or the one who understood it too late. Money has never cared about fairness. It has only ever cared about who moved first and who was patient enough to let time do the rest. Choose accordingly. Machiavelli.